So I remember when I first got in 2012, when I first had, I guess, what people call an awakening or whatever, and I was contacted by the Sasquatch people. I was told early on by some really, really wise people, like Arla Collette Williams, who was actually had, like a couple decades experience dealing with these wonderful people, a couple decades more than most of us have. And she told me many times, as others did, that, when you're connecting with Sasquatch, it really does become about you. Yeah, you do learn a lot about them along the way, but what they're really here for is to connect us to ourselves and to our hearts, and to be in that heart vibration so that we can live in that state of no judgment. That really is what it's all about. It really is all about you. With that said, in some ways I wish, very early on in my education, they were in my face. A lot of wood knocks, a lot of whoops, a lot of screams, sightings, when the time was appropriate. Things of that nature. Just letting me know all the time that they were around. When I was, in the woods, it was pretty well non-stop. Something would happen virtually every time I went out. That might be a bit of an overstatement, but very, very often, almost every time. And it was because they were trying to get my attention and to try to lead me on the path of education where they could get me to the point of understanding that it's really about me and myself. And so at this point in my journey, they're not on my face as much, but I feel their energy a lot. I feel them connecting. When I have a thought or something that, I need an answer to, they will give me that energy confirmation, that sweet, loving energy. And I do miss the in-your-face interaction. And you know what? I'm sure it's going to happen again. I'm sure that this is just a stage, and keep evolving. But that's one thing that I have noticed, and it's not cut and dry or set in stone, and even with me. But it is true that initially they do try to get your attention, so that they can get your attention and your interest and teach you. And on that point about wanting to get your attention, I'd like to relate a really, really cool story that happened last year when I hosted the Barb and Goldie Campout. They approached me and asked me if I would host it, and I was thrilled to. I love sharing this beautiful land, these beautiful people with everybody. And it turned out to be magical. I think everybody came away from that experience changed in some way, and having a deeper respect for the Sasquatch people, maybe a deeper love, because they really expressed their heartfelt emotions throughout that entire week. But anyway, as far as getting one's attention, initially, there was a fellow who came that was from New York City, really sweet guy, wonderful personality, just exactly the kind of person that the Sasquatch people would want to connect with. And but he came open-minded, but he didn't have any expectations. I don't even know what he believed as far as Sasquatch go, or if he even really pondered it or considered it much. But he came to support his friend who was interested and had come to other campouts that the Barb and Goldie group had hosted. And so he came, and obviously the Sasquatch people, nothing is a coincidence with them. They had an interest in this guy. And so they also knew that, he was only here for a few days, and if, he went back after a few days and it was just, non-eventful and whatever, he would have said, wow, what a beautiful place, which British Columbia is, and amazing, and he would have enjoyed himself, I'm sure, but he wouldn't have went back changed and touched. And so they had to reach out to him. They knew that they had to reach out to him fast. And what happened is that we were in camp one night, or actually I wasn't there. I just actually arrived. Sue and I were somewhere else, and we came back to the camp where everybody was staying, and we saw Nick sitting at the table, at the picnic table. And I walked over to him, and he looked, I wouldn't say shook up, but he looked mesmerized. He looked like something magical had happened, and he related exactly what did happen, and it was amazing. He actually saw Ari himself walk right through our camp, fully materialized. And so when I sat down and I started talking to him, he said, is there a great big white fella here? And I said, yes. He said, does he have a great big huge head? Once again, I said yes, because I've seen Ari. And he says he's about 9 feet tall. And I said, no, he's actually more like 12 or 13 feet tall. But then he said, yeah, well, I didn't want to sound ridiculous, but actually he was more like 12 or 13 feet tall. And so when I described to him the one individual in the clan that I can describe, because I've seen, it meant a lot to him. It connected to him, and he knew. It was like a confirmation, because he described the one guy that I could confirm to him was who he was. And it was life-changing for him. And the next day, Nick and some other guys, they were on a hiking around, and the activity was just off the charts. They were getting screams. I think they had some bluff charging, yells, whoops, smells, energy, just everything you could imagine, like just, into one brief, short period of time. And it was a crash course for him. And it was, like I said, it was because they had to reach out to this guy, because, like I said, if he had went away and it just seemed like no activity or nothing to speak of, he would have just thought, what a great vacation. But they gave him what he needed and the opportunity.